All right, let's talk about a huge challenge that pretty much every modern company faces. It's this high stakes balancing act. How do you take a hard look at your own operations, conduct a thorough internal investigation without accidentally leaking the very secrets you're trying to protect? Let's dive in. And that really is the core dilemma, isn't it? I mean, to find problems, your auditors need the keys to the kingdom. They need access to really sensitive systems, private communications, financial records, the works. But the moment you hand over those keys, you create this massive vulnerability. It's a classic paradox. How do you investigate risk without creating a whole lot more of it? This really shows you how things have had to change. The old way, well, it was kind of a mess, right? You had manual processes, sensitive files were scattered everywhere, in emails, on random shared drives, tucked away in spreadsheets, super high risk. The new way is completely different. It's systematic, it's centralized, and this is the key phrase, it's secure by design. Security isn't an afterthought you tack on at the end, it's baked into the process from the very beginning.
So here's how we're going to walk through this. First, we'll tackle that core challenge, the auditor's double-edged sword. Then we'll get into the nuts and bolts, crafting the plan, executing the actual audit, and turning those findings into real action. And we'll finish with the most critical part, securing the audit trail after the investigation is all done.
Okay, so let's really dig into this fundamental tension. An auditor's entire job is to hunt for risks, and that demands deep access to data. But that very access makes the auditor and the data they collect a prime target. It's a potential time bomb. This is exactly the paradox that modern secure audit systems are built to solve. The big solution here is a shift in mindset. You have to stop thinking about audits as these separate, one-off events. Instead, you treat them as a complete end-to-end process. As you can see, security isn't just one step in the chain, it's woven into every single phase, from the initial planning all the way through to the follow-up. By managing the entire life cycle, you control the data at every single point. All right, let's see how this actually works in the real world, starting with how you craft the audit plan. This is the stage where security is designed, not just hoped for. A good plan isn't just about what you're going to investigate. It's about how you're going to do it without putting sensitive information at risk. The whole process kicks off with a concept called the audit universe. It sounds grand, but it's actually pretty simple. Think of it as a complete central inventory of every single thing in the company that could be audited. Every process, every department, every system. This gives you a single source of truth, replacing random reactive investigations with a structured, predictable foundation. And this shows you how that massive universe gets focused into actual action. You obviously don't audit everything at once. Instead, you funnel it down. You pick specific auditable items from that universe, you group them into a formal audit plan for, say, the next year, and then you launch specific, targeted audits from that plan. This funnel makes sure every investigation is deliberate and justified. But, a plan is only as good as its access controls. So how do you manage who gets to see what? Because even with the best plan in the world, if you give everyone the keys to the kingdom, your data is still totally exposed. And the answer is to get incredibly granular with control. Instead of having one generic auditor role, a modern system has more than a dozen standard predefined roles. You'll have one for the audit executive, a different one for the audit manager, another for the lead auditor on the ground, and even a separate role for the person whose job it is to fix a problem. Each person can only see the information they absolutely need. What this all enforces is a core security concept called the principle of least privilege. It's a simple but powerful idea. Nobody gets more access than is absolutely necessary for them to do their job. So the manager who approves the audit plan can't just go snooping around in the raw evidence collected by the auditor. This strict separation of duties is what prevents data from leaking either by accident or on purpose. Okay, so the plan is set, the roles are assigned. Now we move to the execution phase. This is where the real investigation happens. But instead of people emailing spreadsheets and sensitive documents back and forth, all the evidence is collected and managed inside a single, secure, controlled environment. Yeah, the source material calls this the fieldwork phase, and that's exactly what it is. But now, the field is a secure digital system. This means every document that gets uploaded, every note from an interview, every single piece of evidence is gathered and logged in one central place, not scattered out there in the wild on insecure laptops or phones. The playbook for all this digital fieldwork is called the Work Program. You can think of it as the mission blueprint for the auditor.
It's not just a simple to-do list. It's the official document laying out exactly what questions will be asked, what controls will be tested, and what data needs to be analyzed. Nothing happens that isn't defined in this program. And that work program gives auditors a really powerful digital toolkit. As you can see here, they can run automated tests on security controls, they can send out structured digital questionnaires, or they can even use data analytics to automatically hunt for financial irregularities. And the key is, every piece of evidence these tools generate is captured and stored centrally, right there inside the audit itself. So the investigation is done, all the evidence is in. What now? Well, a really secure and effective audit system doesn't just find problems, it makes sure they get solved. This part is all about turning those findings into concrete action. This slide lays out what's basically an action loop, and it's all about accountability. When an auditor identifies an issue, they create a formal finding in the system that automatically triggers a notification for someone to create an action plan. The system then tracks this issue until there's proof of a fix, and it even follows up to make sure the fix actually worked. Nothing gets lost in an email chain or forgotten. And that brings us to our last section. And honestly, it might be the most important one of all, securing the audit trail. Okay, the investigation's done, problems are being fixed, but what do you do with the massive pile of super sensitive data the audit just created? What happens after it's all over? Now, this is a point that a lot of organizations completely miss. The audit itself creates a new, highly concentrated treasure trove of sensitive data. All of your company's biggest weaknesses, private interview notes, system vulnerabilities, they're all sitting in one place. If you just leave it there, that audit trail goes from being an asset to a massive liability. It's basically a ticking time bomb of data just waiting to be leaked. So a truly secure system has to have a clear end-of-life plan for its own data. This slide lays out that process beautifully. First, you anonymize the data by stripping out personal names. Then, a garbage collection process gets rid of any data that's not essential. What's left gets moved to a secure long-term archive for compliance reasons. And finally, the most critical step, the permanent destruction of data that's no longer needed, often using automated rules. The point is, the data doesn't just sit around forever as a risk. And for that small amount of data that absolutely must be kept in the archive, there's one final brilliant layer of defense: read access logging. It's like having a permanent, unchangeable security camera pointed at your data. The system creates a tamper-proof log of exactly who viewed what information and when. This total transparency makes it basically impossible for anyone to snoop around in sensitive files without being noticed. Which really leaves us with one last big thought. We've just walked through how a modern audit system protects data through structure, through strict roles, and through a clear end-of-life plan. So the question is, in this age of what feels like constant data breaches, is this model, where access to sensitive information is always logged, always transparent, and always temporary, is that the only way forward for managing all of our important data?